Okay.
So 3, 2, 1, clap.
Oh, we did it on time. We did. That's how connected we are.
Yes, so connected in person.
Yeah, you look beautiful, by the way.
So do you.
Thank
so
you.
Do you. I love it. Oh. Welcome to the newest episode of The Sexy Mystics. I'm Jess.
And I'm Jen. And as you can see, we're like in the same room. She just got back from Ecuador, so we are celebrating her return to the U.S.
Yes, and I couldn't have hoped and wished for a more perfect person to welcome me back onto Terra Americana than Jen.
Yeah.
And we thought, why not vibe together while we're here in this space and put an episode together. So that's what we wanted to do. So we're going to dive right in because we love talking about things that are so relevant and happening right now for us that we bring in and experience. And I had an experience a few days ago of meeting this gentleman who had reached out to me online, and he was so convinced of a truth of his that that there was just I was in disbelief. And I think what was really cool about, as we discussed this morning, when something is in disbelief for you, it's really like it's not in resonance. It's not in alignment. Mm-hmm. You do not have belief about what you are hearing. And it's probably not meant for you to hear, either at that moment or maybe not ever. And it was a really interesting thing for me because I don't know about you ladies, but so many times in the past where I've been with men and they've been so convinced, so confident about something that they didn't resonate for me, but I was so weak in my own intuition and in my own trust for myself that I went along with what they said. I acquiesced, I deferred to them. And it ended up, everything happens for a reason, and of course, everything's perfect and divine. However, that was not in my highest good and my highest benefit. Have you experienced that, Jen?
Oh yeah. I was married for 6 years in that situation where someone was very convinced, and I was just like, oh, it must be love. He's chasing after me, and it feels like it could be, I don't know, and then I was in 6 years of a relationship that taught me a lot, but I was definitely glad to get out of it. So yeah, I think all of us women, we run into men who are convinced that we are for them, and we're like, oh, I don't think so, but and then we start to second guess ourselves, and that's really what this episode is going to be about. It's about trusting your inner guidance and your intuition, and then speaking your truth, and speaking your truth with authenticity and with power, because when you can come from that place, then you start to navigate through waters, and those kind of men don't show up anymore. And so I've seen that in my own life. They don't show up for me anymore, because I've had to stand in my truth several times since leaving that marriage, that the same type of men showed up. And I was like, no. And so I got some practice. So it was really cool, because when Jess went through it, I was like, oh, no, this is a benefit of my wisdom that I went through.
Yeah.
And I was able to help her, kind of get some clarity around what this guy was really doing.
Absolutely. And it was a great initiation, and I've reflected on it since, and what I got was that it wasn't a test, but more of a testament. It was a testament to the growth that I've done, my ability to honor myself, to trust myself, to lean into my intuition, and to know that this doesn't feel right to me. Mm-hmm. So even though he was so convinced that I was his twin flame, that we meant to, there was this huge union, that I was the manifestation of a prophecy of an oracle that he had, and he was so convinced of it, and it just created more and more resistance in me, and I didn't understand why. And then I was like, then I started speaking my truth. I don't feel comfortable about this. He's forcing his opinion, his truth on me. And I was like, you could be so convinced, and that could be your truth, but then why haven't I gotten any signs? Yeah. Why haven't I been given any guidance? I'm a very intuitive person. Anyone that knows me knows that I follow signs, and I trust them, and I know them, and I'm very, very connected. And so the fact that I didn't receive anything, that was my red flag. Hello, hold up, before you get sucked into this thing. And so it took a few days for me to process it. Jen, for her, she's like, I would have known in a second, two seconds. I've been like, nope, this guy isn't the right thing. For me, this was a real initiation for me in really owning my own and honoring my own truth.
Yeah.
And there have been so many times in my life, one of my last relationships that I was in, the guy I was with was so convinced that I was meant to be his wife. He was so convinced that I was like his soulmate. He was so convinced by this, and I wasn't. And then I was like, but maybe I just don't have enough information yet. Maybe I just need to hold on. Maybe there's something I haven't uncovered. Maybe I'm missing something. He seems so sure. And so I went along with it. And that was a huge, huge lesson for me to learn, that if I had followed my inner guidance just from the get-go, it wouldn't have happened. And not to say I don't have tremendous gratitude, everything is perfect, but like moving forward, really, really understand the importance of honoring my truth. And in ways, I gotta tell you that men, they're forcing themselves on you, their opinions, their truths, their beliefs, their understandings. That is very third dimension. That is very patriarchal, and that is very low masculine. That is not a conscious, awakened, divine masculine man. He is very much someone still stuck in his ego and in the third dimension. That has been my understanding. Oh my God, I'm starting to channel. Do you hear my voice? It sounded different. Okay. So I am starting to channel, and I did not even realize that, but my voice is changing, as you can hear. Yes, that's me. Channeling from the rainbow realm. And so this is something that is new. Okay, here we go. So the thing about men, and we love men so much, and we understand that they hold such a purpose for us in our life and in what is to come for this new generation. We've talked about this in episodes past, of building the foundation, that we're in a co-creation together, a collaboration together, a communion together. This is so funny. But for men to understand, women are waking up, and the more that you're placing your ideas on them, the more they are going to resist. And I love this because I have such a clear contrast. So I had this gentleman who's telling me that we're going to travel the world together, that we have this union, that we have all this work to do, that da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, whoa, like, can I see this information and decide for myself? Can I review this oracle that you've been given so I can tune into my own thing? And then a contrast to that was another guy that I hope I'm meeting him in a couple of days. I'm super excited, but he's come to see me, and he's offered. He's invited. Yeah. He's invited me, like, I would love for you to come with me on these travels that I'm doing. I'm so inspired by you. I want to support you in every way that I can. And when it comes from a place of invitation, that's what brings women to you, right? It's like that curiosity is that, oh wow, like I'm not being forced into something. I can be lured in. And that is something that I really, really admire and appreciate, the contrast. Yeah. And when you speak in certainty, guys, it's women are waking up. So let's go back, Cher, please.
Well, I mean, there's so much in what you just said, and I've had my own experiences with men forcing themselves on me to convince me that I was their person, and so if you feel it in your solar plexus, like this, like almost like a wall coming at you, then you know that you're like, oh gosh, I got to take a step back because this is not right. It doesn't feel right. So shortly after I was divorced, I had several men show up that was very similar, and who was trying to force themselves on me and say, oh, you're in your head, get into your heart, and using all this terminology around spirituality, which can be kind of confusing if you are not really tuned into who you are. And so at that point in time, I wasn't, but thank goodness I was on the journey and on the path of really discovering that. And so it challenged me in a way that I was able to wake up more to what was showing up and begin to really change and begin to evolve past these types of men. Now they don't show up. Now they don't even bother. I don't know if they even see me, or, it doesn't matter because I don't want them in any way. But here's the one thing about all of this that I was thinking about is that we as women as well have strong intuitions about men, but we can't do the same thing to them either. We cannot go to them and start saying what we feel is truth and what has been downloaded to us on a spiritual level. We can't do that to them either, because that's disrespecting their boundary and violating their truth. We have to come to these conclusions together. And if you believe in spirit and if you believe in truth, then both of you will come to recognition together. And so he doesn't need to say it and you don't need to say it. You'll figure it out at the same time, because everything is divine and everything is perfect. And so I want to really encourage you, because I know for my own situation, like, I've been downloaded some things about a certain person, and I'm like, I'm not going to share that because it's scary. They're not in the same place as me, and it's okay. But you can't share these things. You have to keep them to yourself until the time is right. So, if you're getting downloads about a certain person, like that's your soulmate or that's your twin flame or that's your, whatever, like if he's not there, it's not time to tell him, it's time to just let it play out how the universe is going to let it play out, and trust that everything is divine and trust that everything is perfect. And one of the things that I was thinking about this morning was that one of the questions that I started asking is, what if I believed? And then I went into, like all these good things, because I was getting stuck the last few days. I was getting stuck in my old patterns and my old belief systems and old thought processes that had come up to trip me up a little bit. And then this morning I was like, what if I believed that everything was perfect and that everything was divine and that no matter what happens, it's all divine and it's all for a purpose, instead of believing that a guy is out to use me, or because that's been that's my thing that I've got to get over, is feeling or sensing or believing that a man is here to use rather than to really love and cherish and nurture myself. And so I had to start doing the self-talk this morning around, what if I believed that the men that showed up for me, because God protects me, because God wants my best interest, what if I believed that the men that showed up were all good, and that the ones that don't show up or the ones that take a hike are supposed to, because the universe is putting that divide between us, and that's the way that it's supposed to be. So that helped me to step into like more of a trust of this process and allowing it to unfold the way that it's supposed to, because it's all perfect.
Yes, one of the to Jen's last point, one of the things that the medicine man I was working with in Ecuador, what he told me one time, because I was so stuck in my head about stories about my former relationship, and I know that he is too. Even on the spiritual realm, he is just as much as he is in person, which tickles my heart. He's so cute. But the medicine man, he said, if you're going to make up a story, might as well make it a good one.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I get to choose what my story is and what I'm going to believe. And so I came up with my story, and my story is this. I fell in love with a man. He was good to me, and I was good to him. And when we had learned our lessons, I said goodbye and I moved on. And that is the absolute truth. And it feels so good to like say it like that and like get rid of the stories, get rid of the emotions, get rid of all the good, the bad, whatever. That when you distill it down, that is my story. And so we get to choose that. We get to choose what our truths are, you guys. And you do not have to take on anybody's truth that does not resonate for you. And that's one of the big things I learned about that gentleman a few days ago was like, what, this isn't in my resonance and this does not align with me. And so then I had some cleanup work to do. I worked with this fantastic woman in Germany named Bettina. Well, she's amazing. And
We both worked with her. She's amazing.
Yeah, she has changed our lives, and we're so, so grateful. As you can tell by our radiance, I think that Bettina has helped us with our radiance. But, and she had to help me kind of unhook. He had a lot of hooks in me. He was hooking my energy, and he was pulling it in. And it's not a fun feeling. I literally felt like I had shackles around my ankles and around my wrists, the next night. And I reached out to Bettina, and I was like, I feel like I'm being shackled. And he was hooking me. Yeah. And so this is something I really learned today. This is so important. So I've been really focused on creating this massive, strong, amazing force field of energy to keep out any man that is not in that vibration, and that he would stay away. And Bettina's like, congratulations, you actually achieved the opposite. And I'm like, what? And she said that powerful men in the third dimension that they've been used to, they want women as their trophies. And so the more powerful a woman is, the more strong that she is, the more they want her. And she's like, so what you end up doing is actually attracting moths to the flame. And so now you're noticing all these men are coming to you, even though you have this huge force field up, because you've shown your power. And so these powerful men are now very interested in who you are, because they're the gentleman. I was like, why me? Like, I mean, I'm not like really, I mean, I'm great, but I'm not like this super accomplished thing. It was because of my vibration and my energy, and his ego. So what she said to me, because we're moving into a heart-centered consciousness, and I shared this with Jen today, and it resonated for us, so we wanted to share that with you, and that it's when you come from your heart, that is your power. It is the strongest power in the universe. It is a subtle energy, and it is absolutely the most powerful thing that you can do. So coming from here versus from here or whatever it is, I promise you that men that are not in that vibration of heart will not be able to approach. That is your strongest protection that you can do for yourself. And so I'm going to pause and let you respond to that.
Well, that's like the truth, dropping into your heart space is the most powerful protection. And here's the thing that I had always done in the past. I had always built walls around my heart. And in fact, when Bettina went in to clear the energy around my heart in a session that we had, she was like, you have a steel plate on the back of your heart, in your heart chakra. And she was like, you have really done a really good job of trying to protect yourself. But here's the thing, ladies, is that when you build walls to protect yourself, then you build walls to having the great things come in. And so when we can really align with our heart and get into that space, then we can be very discerning of what comes in and what doesn't. And that's really the truth and really the trick about it, because when we can be discerning to the men that, like this gentleman that I'd reached out to Jess the other day, I mean, if we can be discerning to that and go, oh, no, this is not okay, and put your boundaries up, then that's whenever you're really protecting yourself and you're not allowing these types of vampires to come in, and suck from your energy field, and whenever you're doing the energy work and you're continuing to be in it, then that is the best place that you can be. And one of the things that I was meditating on this morning was around the situation that I have going on, and the universe said to me in my meditation, what if you could just drop the judgment and drop into love? And what would love do? What would love think? How would love think? How would love approach? And I'm not talking about a romantic love. I'm just talking about love in general. I'm talking about that love that you just have for one another as people. And so anyway, what would love do? What would love think? How would love feel? How would love approach this? And dropping the judgment allows you to drop into a place of truth and honesty. And then from that place, you can decide what it is that you want to do about or with the situation. Instead of trying to, like what I was doing, I was up in my head about it, like what if, and then I was getting mad and, and all this stuff. It just doesn't need to happen. It's not even happened. And yet I'm still in my head about it, and it's like, holy cow, stop, just stop. And so it's really amazing to have these tools and these awarenesses to be able to drop into meditation and listen to what our guidance is telling us, because our guidance is always there to help us on this journey. We don't have to hold on to this stuff. We don't have to try to guess. We don't have to try to figure it out. It's all here for us if we just listen internally and go to our heart space.
Yes. And I just want to take a quick moment and give you a hug, because I just feel your love so much.
We're so happy to be in the same room with each other. It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it. I'm so grateful. Yeah, when we're tuning into ourselves, it's building a muscle, you guys, of trusting your intuition. It takes courage. It does take bravery. It takes bravery in those moments where you're like, you know what, this doesn't feel good to me, and I'm going to honor that. And that's one of the biggest things that I've learned, is that I'm responsible for me and honoring myself more than someone else's thoughts or feelings, because that's going to be theirs. That, you know, I can be as sweet and kind and and they're still going to have their projections, they're still going to have their filters, like all that. So I might as well honor myself and do it in a clean way. One of the things that two things I want to bring up. One is Bettina shared with me today that your first impulse when you see experience something, your very first impulse is from your heart. And that is connected to your higher self, like all of it. That is your divine connection. Your second impulse is your head, that's trying to process, trying to make it up. Well, what about this or that? And, you know, to Jen's point about questioning ourselves and second guessing, I took on that same belief or opportunity like Jen did 2 weeks ago, and saying, you know, instead of me questioning everything that comes into my head, what if I just believed it? What if I just chose to believe that what's coming in through my head is true, is my truth? It doesn't have to be the truth, but my truth. And what would happen? And then all of a sudden, all these amazing things were coming in, because I was letting go, and there was so much of my mind, so much of my energy that was being spent on, you know, oh, is this, and going through all the possibilities, instead of being like, all right, move the head over. I literally had to move my mind over and just let the information come in, and then just trust it, you know? And to Jen's point, I'm not going to go to the guy that's been visiting me and that I've been channeling for the last couple of months and being like, hey, so here's like 13 pages of things that you've said to me, and you know,
I know, you can't do that. It's like would freak him out.
I'd be like, peace out. And that is actually an example that I had. So I had gotten these really strong messages when I was in my medicine, and I called up one of my dearest girlfriends I love so much, and I called her and I left her messages in the medicine, which they say never do, and I stand by that. And I was just so sure of it. I was so confident. I still am. I don't mean it anything less than I did, but I didn't have the I placed it on her that it was the truth instead of my truth. And so to have, again, another contrast of that man pushing his ideas on me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I did that to my girlfriend. And so I left her a message, and I was like, please forgive me. I overstepped my boundaries. That was my truth, and I was speaking as if it was the truth. That was not my place. You are on your journey, and you're going to figure things out for yourself. Very much to your point that, you know, if we're meant to collaborate together and do these things together, then you'll come to your own conclusion, and then we can move forward. But it wasn't my place to like tell her that. And so that was a really, really beautiful lesson for me. And I'm glad I learned that early on, because you know what Jen and I plan on doing in the future is some big stuff. And, you know, definitely being able to honor our own truth and also know it's ours and not on behalf of anybody else. And then the other thing I was going to share is this has been so beautiful. So the medicine man, Steve Sewell, that I worked with in Ecuador, he talks about, you know, so many times we go back and we're like, what was I thinking? What was I thinking being with that person? What was I thinking like being in that relationship? What was I thinking like when I said yes to this thing, or where I like skipped an opportunity on that? Like, what was I thinking? What was I thinking? What was I thinking? And he said, instead of saying, what was I thinking? Try on, what was I feeling? What was I feeling? He's like, because your feelings are what dictate your thoughts, your actions, you know, the choices that you make. It's all from how you were feeling. And when he said that to me, it shifted me out of judgment, criticism, frustration into a much deeper sense of self-compassion, to like reflect back and be like, okay, how was I feeling in that? Okay, well, I was feeling this and this and this. And then I was like, oh, okay. You know, we weren't thinking with our heads at the time. We were moving with our hearts. That's where our action was. So those were a couple things that came up for me.
Yeah. So I got a couple of things to piggyback on that.
Great, piggyback.
So the first point is when we are in the heart space, logic goes out the window. And that was something that I was really getting my head around. And I know that that's kind of contradictory, but we have all of these people and these teachings saying all of these things that are logical, and everything that you come up to is about logic. And this is why you should make your decision because of logic. And this is, this going through, and there are patterns and things to everything that we do, because if we didn't have patterns, then everything would be complicated. So we have to develop patterns in order to operate swiftly and in order to transcend swiftly. So I get that part. But then there are parts where the universe is beyond our patterns and beyond any type of patterning. The universe is beyond logic. The universe is beyond all of those things. And so we have to dive in, and this is where it takes a tremendous amount of courage, because we have to decipher, is this right based upon what I'm feeling in my heart? And then going into the feeling space that you were talking about, feeling is everything. Feeling is your vibration. And I've talked about this a lot on my lives and stuff like that around frequency and vibration. So we are all vibratory beings. We're all vibrating at a different speed. And we are emitting a frequency from our aura. And our aura is what is touching people. So if your frequency is a low vibrational frequency, so if you're stuck in anger, fear, judgment, sadness, depression, all of those lower vibrational energies, then your aura and your frequency is emitting that, and that's what it's attracting crappy circumstances into your life, men that will use you, things that are happening that aren't to your liking. All of those things are attracted to you based upon that frequency and vibration that you are emitting. And so as you raise your vibration and your frequency, then you're going to attract different things into your life. You're going to attract better things into your life. So if you're living in a state of bliss, happiness, joy, thankfulness, gratitude, all of those things, then you're going to have an aura that emits that frequency. The only thing that can come to you then is that stuff. The other stuff can't find its way to you because there's no path. So if you're in your heart space and you're in that courage, and you're vibrating that frequency and you're working on that frequency every single day, you're in gratitude, you're in your meditation practice, you're in your yoga practice, you're operating in a way that is bringing in those feelings of bliss. Feeling is everything. Everything comes to you through feeling. Money comes to you through feeling. People come to you through feeling. Business comes to you through feeling. So you can look at somebody and they have a thriving business. It's because of the vibration they're emitting around. It's not how hard they're working anymore. Like used to when we were more in third dimension, like if you worked hard, then you got your reward or whatever. But we're moving to fifth dimension. So we're operating in both places now, and we're able to tap into this fifth dimension. We're able to activate within us the DNA codes that are higher, and so we're able to bring in these things, and we're able to do it effortlessly. We're able to draw it in because of how we're feeling and because of how we're showing up. So that's why this stuff is so important, that we are really tapping into this heart space. And the other thing about it, like if you guys have done if you've heard of Heart Math Institute, Heart Math has done a lot of research and stuff about our heart and how the frequency and vibration of our heart is directly correlated to the frequency and vibration of the planet. And so the planet has a frequency and a vibration to it as well. And so when the two are meeting and meshing, that's whenever you have that stability to say, okay, this is truth, because this is all lining up. When we're in our head and the vibration is off, so you have the vibration of the earth, and then you have your own vibration, which is like not in alignment, then that's whenever the stuff that's the truth can't make it to you, or you get confused about it. So it's about doing the work around the heart and recognizing when vampires like this show up, or when opportunities show up, we can go, okay, this is what this is. I'm tuning into me. I'm vibrating at this level. So I know that this is truth or not truth.
Yeah, absolutely. And to add to your point, if you think like a spinning top, right? So a spinning top, and it moves, if you think of Inception, when you spin the top and just moving and moving is perfect. It's perfect. That's the vibration of Earth and you moving together. When you start wobbling, that's when you're like not in resonance. That's when you're not in alignment with the Earth. And so that's when I believe right now in this moment as I'm saying this, so this must be coming in from someplace else, that like when you're when you start wobbling and unsure and that doubt, that's when the universe is like, okay, well, so what did they want? So then it gets just throwing all kinds of stuff at you. Yeah. And then you're like, oh my God, I don't know how to handle this, But it's like, if you stay on your path and you're spinning really, really strong in who you are and really understanding that, the universe can get more clear on who you are and what you want. And so that's what I understood really, really clearly this last weekend with just the different kind of interactions I was having with people. And then like the more that I was in resonance, the more clear it was of what I was asking for. And then the more I was wobbly, the more it was giving me different things that were not resonating. And then that was and then instead of me being like, why is the universe sending me this? I don't understand. Being like, oh, no, wait, this isn't my truth. This isn't actually how I feel. I need to change my vibration. And I had another thought and it just escaped me. But yeah, just really, really owning that, being in resonance with who you are is just so important.
Yeah. And the thing about, like, if you guys listen to Esther Hicks, Abraham Hicks, in her teaching, then you hear her say wobble a lot. She uses that term a lot when she's talking about vibration. And so when she has someone stand up and say to Abraham and, whatever the spirit guide is, and has them articulate what is it that they're feeling, what is it that they're going through or experiencing, and what is it that they want to bring in, then what she is doing is looking for the wobble in what they're saying and pointing out the wobble. And by pointing out the wobble, then they can see, okay, this is where I'm going wrong, and this is where I need to get lined back up. So contradiction is wobble. And what do I mean by that? So when you're speaking and you're saying, I want this, and then it starts to show up, and then you go into fear, which I have a tendency to do.
Let's own that.
I'm owning it. I mean, I went straight. I've been asking for something, and something like it hasn't totally showed up yet, but it started to like manifest that it was going to show up yesterday, and I freaking went into fear. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like scared now. And now it's like, no, it's usury. Like I can't do it. So it's total wobble. And it has taken
I'm getting what I asked for.
I know, I'm getting what I asked for. Wait. And I'm scared now, So it's like we have to like manage the wobble. We have to manage the emotion around what's showing up. We are powerful manifestors. I know Jess and we're like super powerful manifestors. And I don't know if you guys have heard of human design before, but in my human design, I'm a manifestor generator. So I'm like off the charts manifestor. And so then when I manifest, I'm like, oh shit, like what did I do? And like it scares me because it's like so much is all coming in, Yeah. So anyway, whenever we're going through this process of being clear, it's like being clear is absolutely the most important thing. So let's talk about relationships for a second. You want a relationship. Get absolutely freaking clear on what it is that you want to draw in. So like I started a journal not long ago, and the whole journal is just for this purpose. I'm not writing anything else in this journal. I am just writing what comes to me around relationship. What do I want to feel when I'm in a relationship? What do I want to experience? I want to wake up every morning and just like feel this blissful state and have sex and, enjoy the day with him. And, whatever it is that we decide to do that day, experience, explore, whatever, that's, how I want to live my life. And so anyway, I'm like in the process of getting clear, like, how do I want to feel with this person? I want to feel like alive. I want to feel like he cherishes me. I want him to put his arms around me. I want him to like want to snuggle and cuddle with me, like all of these things. And so getting really, really clear on what it is that you want, that you're drawing in, what are the characteristics that you're looking for, being clear on the type of man that you're drawing in. Is he hardworking? Is he a family guy? Like, does he care about his family, not just his children, but his like mom and dad and his brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews? Is he estranged? Like things like that are important to really be clear on what type of man, the character, the integrity, the honesty, all of those things. How does he show up in the world? Is he in integrity? Is he in character? Is he an honest man? Is he all of these things? Like those are the things that I am drawing in. And so getting really clear on those things are important. So
And when we say he, we mean whatever partner you want to attract. So
yeah. I mean, I'm
specific.
like doing the he thing, so that's why I'm saying he. But yeah.
Yeah. He, she, all is good. We totally support all of that.
Yeah.
One of the things that I wanted to add to what Jen was talking about is when, as manifestors, you know, we get freaked out like by the power that we have to create what we want. Holy shit, this thing, like the divine creator put God in us to be able to do these things that we want to do and create for ourselves in our life. We can create anything that we want. But to also understand that you're a vessel, right?
Yeah.
So I have ego. I was telling Jen yesterday that last week when I really started channeling, I was like, I was like sobbing. I was like, all I know how to do is channel. That's all I know how to do. All I know how to do is how to show up. That's all I know how to do. I am so inadequate. I am so unworthy of what is coming through that because I am human. I have ego. I know I have these desires that I don't want to be a monk. a nun. I know I'm meant to be out in the world and show myself in a bigger way. So understanding that, and really accepting, like there's so many times where we've been told like, oh, just tell yourself that you believe in yourself, tell yourself that you're worthy, tell yourself that you deserve it, and that just kept me at here. Like that feeling of inadequacy is still there. You can tell yourself a million times. And so instead what I did is I went into the depths. I was on my knees sobbing to the sky, to the divine creator, that I am so incapable. I am so untalented. I am so unworthy. And I am so sorry that I'm so ill prepared for what's coming through, because I want to help so much. And what came by me acknowledging that I have ego and acknowledging my failings, I didn't know this would happen. I ended up being able to channel all this incredible stuff that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. Like instead of trying to deny my ego or placate it or ignore it, like for me to accept it and say, I have ego, I am not a divine being. And then all of a sudden divine information came in and it was incredible and amazing. So remember that you're a vessel and you're a tool, and yes, you have the divine in you, and you're also letting the divine go through you. And when the more that you can open yourself up and just say like, these are my failings, these are my faults, these are my flaws, I understand, like please forgive me. My experience, my truth right now in that is that it created everything to change by me owning that.
And I think like it's so important. The whole honoring ourselves and self-love part is super important. And I know for me, like this year has been a very difficult year. I've been immersed in plant medicine as well. And it seems like when you do that, then your stuff shows up because you're supposed to transcend this stuff. And so my stuff has been showing up for the last year big time. And so I feel like I've been slammed against the wall. And so one of the things that happened for me is that I always had self-doubt, and I didn't have self-love. I was very difficult. I was very hard on myself. And I would always talk down on myself and, just really be very, very harsh to me. And one of the things that happened this year is that I came to my most low and scary place. Like to me, I don't think I could feel any lower as a person, as far as like where I was at financially, where I was at as a person. I was just not in this good place at all. Things were not working the way I wanted them to. They weren't manifesting the way I wanted them to, all of this stuff. And so what happened was I got to that low, low place of disgust within myself, and I had to flip the tables basically. And from that place, I had to start accepting myself and loving myself, even though I was in that place. And I had to start to honor myself from that place. And so I did. I just started self-talk all the time. Anytime something would pop into my head that was beating myself up for the position that I had gotten myself into, because hello, we are creators. We're creating these situations because we're supposed to transcend this stuff and we're supposed to learn from them. So anytime I'd gotten to, something would pop into my head around what I was thinking or feeling about myself, and it was negative, then I went straight to like self-talk about self-love. I am a badass for taking the plunge and jumping off the cliff and figuring this out and going into business and like all of these things. I was just talking to myself, just really honoring myself. And I was able to transcend that. I'm not nearly as harsh on myself as I once was. I'm not nearly as harsh or, deprecating towards myself. There's a tremendous amount of respect and self-love that I now have. And it has really changed everything for me. And what it has allowed me to do is not only, just honor myself, but also to step into new learnings of higher dimension and higher consciousness, which I didn't have access to before. When you're in a self-loathing place, whenever you're beating yourself up and you're harsh on yourself, you don't feel like you're worthy or enough, then it's very difficult for the divine to get to you and really access those higher states of awareness and consciousness. And one of the books that I just recently listened to, and I'm not an auditory learner, I'm more of a visual learner. So I actually bought the book so that I can highlight it, but it's the Wayne Dyer book called Wishes Fulfilled. I highly recommend that book. It's literally one of my most favorite things I've ever listened to and will be reading in the next week or so. But it's all about you are the divine within you. You have the divine within you. So I am that I am are the most powerful words that you can speak. And anything before or anything following I am is lining you up for that belief. So you've got to really watch what you're saying. And if you're saying I am, really, really be honoring to yourself around the I am statements. Yeah. Because that is the divine. That's how the divine described the divine. That's how God described God. I am that I am. From the burning bush to Moses thousands of years ago. So now, whenever we're speaking I am is so important for us to step into. I am amazing. I am great. I am beautiful. I am, whatever it is that you want it to follow. Yeah. But don't let it follow something negative, because then that's what we're going to create.
That's beautiful. Yeah. There's a book that actually, just talking about that today, that Bettina told me, is called The I Am Discourses. It's by, channeled by Saint Germain, who was the father of Jesus. Joseph. He was Joseph, not the father, obviously. The I Am Discourses. And so she recommended that I read that. And she said one of the most powerful statements you can say is that I am the resurrection and the life. I am the resurrection and the life. That there is Christ consciousness within all of us that is possible, and we can walk on this earth as that. So I did want to share something that was super helpful for me, and that is calling on your angels. Oh, yeah. Angels are fucking awesome. They're amazing. They come through so much, and I think the more that I've been in tune with my intuition and myself, the more that they have shown up, and I've been much more aware of it. So I have 3 examples of it. I flew into Quito, and it was my last day in Ecuador. And I booked a place on Airbnb. I was sitting around at the airport waiting to hear back from these people to confirm it. I didn't hear anything back, so I'm like, I'm just going to get in a taxi. I'm going to see if I can find them online. Go to their address. So I went to this address that I saw through on their Facebook page of where they're located, and I went in and someone opened up the door and they're helping my suitcases up, and on my way to this place I called on the lodging angels. I was like, lodging angels, please help me find a place where I can just check in right away. I want to relax. I want to be able to walk around. I want to take a breath. Like this whole journey, this chapter closing, a new one opening, like all this stuff. And so I'm in this house. They're pulling my luggage upstairs. I'm speaking to them, thinking like, oh, this is the name of this place. And they're like, no, this isn't the place. I'm like, but this is the address of this place. And they're like, but that's not our address. That is our address, but we're not that house. And then I got a message back from the Airbnb people saying like, sorry, we need more time. We need at least a day in advance. I'm like, well, shit, what am I going to do? And I'm in this house that was the wrong address, that wasn't the right location, and I'm here, and somehow, miraculously, they had a floor available for me to use. I had my own apartment for the night, and I walked in, my suitcase was there, and they're like, make yourself at home, here's all this stuff. What? Like the lodging angels totally came through. And so the host, she's like, oh, it's such a coincidence. I'm like, it's not a coincidence, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. The angels help me. And so later on that day, I was walking and I was like, okay, relationship angels, this is my last night in Ecuador. You know, it's so like to meet someone who's like this and this and this and this. And oh, it'd be so great to get a kiss. Maybe, I don't know. It's Ecuador. It's my last time, you know, all this stuff. And sure enough, someone showed up that filled all of that. And that was fantastic. And then the last thing that I want to say is I have been told that keto can be, to be very careful, especially as a woman in keto. And so I called on my protection angels to have them all around me. And when I was leaving the Airbnb, I was at the top of a hill and I was going to going down this hill, all these stairs, and I was going to follow this street where there was all this events going on. It was really cool. And at the first level down, there were 4 men that were standing there, and they were all talking amongst themselves. And this was around 6 p.m. And one of them said, "Oh, you're so beautiful," in Spanish. I was like, "Oh, thank you." And I kept going on my way. And as I'm making my way down the hill, they're calling out to me. They're whistling. They're trying to get my attention. They're saying more things to me. And I start humming and singing and getting out of their space. So hours later, after spending time with the person that I saw, he and a friend of his offered to walk me back to my place, and that was really nice. And so we walked down the street. We're at the bottom of the hill where all those stairs are. And I said, "Oh, I've got this. Don't worry about it." This is 11 o'clock at night now. This is significantly later. And I was like, "Don't worry, I got this. I'll just climb the stairs." And they're like, "Okay, well, when you get to the top of the stairs, wave so we know you're okay." And I was like, "Yeah, all right." And so I get up about 20 steps and they're like, Jessica. And they're like, no, we're going to come with you. And I felt a little silly, but I was like, okay, I'll let these men come with me and walk me to my door. Like, that's very nice. You guys, I get up to the top of the street after climbing all those stairs, and those same 4 men that had been there 5 hours before were 30 feet from my door. They were waiting for me. And if I had been there by myself, I do not know what would have happened. Hopefully an angel would have somehow come in, and I know they would have. Yeah. But the fact that those same fucking 4 men that had been there 5 hours before were there waiting for me. And so the men that I was with, they walked me to my door, and I was like, okay, thank you. They're like, open the door, go inside, lock it. We need to make sure you're safe. And I was like, okay. And so I did. And thank you guys for feeling that calling from the angels to protect me, because I needed that. And I didn't even know, but I had called on the angels, and then they brought in the people needed to actually get me home safe. So there's angels for everything, you guys. There's angels for love, abundance, food, exercise, everything, anything that you could possibly need help with. And they are here to help you. They know that you need help. There's so much that you're trying to balance, getting messages from the divine, surviving on this planet, helping do bigger things. And so just call on them. They can't come in unless it's a really, really dire thing and you need intercession. But other than that, it's free will. So you have free will here and free choice. So call on them and they will show up.
Yeah. That's such a beautiful story about the testament to our ability and to the spirit realm of working together on this 3D dimension here on this planet. And the thing that I want to also say about it is also believe, because a lot of times we don't want to believe. We don't want to believe that we are, divinely guided and supported, that these random synchronistic things that happen, those things are divinely appointed. Yeah. They're divinely appointed moments. They're divinely appointed people. Nothing like that happens on accident. And so when we can step into this deeper place of belief that everything is working out for us and that we have the power to co-create with something bigger than us, something greater out here, then we can really manifest and create something so amazing. But it's about being in that higher vibrational state, in that place. It's about believing in the good. There's always going to be good and there's going to be bad. There's contrast with everything. And we can do a whole video on contrast, because contrast invites in the opposite, so that when you have what it is that you're truly calling in, you can accept it and you can appreciate it more than you ever would have before if you didn't have the contrast. So like if you're never poor, then whenever you reach the financial position that you want to be in, then you have a greater appreciation for that financial position. If you never have a really crappy relationship and someone that treats you terribly, then when you finally have that person that is so magnetic and is so like just lights you up in every way, then you can appreciate them to the level. Contrast is there for us to use to have that opposite, that other experience that we get to experience. And so believe and go with the contrast, go with life, allow it to flow. You know, it's really about flow. It's about stepping into that stream that is here to take us all down, and we don't have to fight it. We don't have to swim upstream. I spend so much time fighting the freaking stream that I'm asking to be in flow with. It's so crazy. So it's about just getting, just floating and going down the stream, and things will work out for us if we just believe and we go to that space. So at first, sometimes it's a constant reminder. And I know for me, it's like lately, as I've come into this deeper awareness, I've had to remind myself more of it. Now, I'm getting to a place where I'm like, oh my gosh, it's showing up like crazy. Like, how many times did I see 33 yesterday? Like, the number 33 showed up to me, literally, I mean, I'm not exaggerating. It had to be 30 times.
Well, at least 33.
At least 33 times, right? And then I woke up in the middle of the night at 3:33. I screenshotted it. That's how, I was just like, are you kidding me? I'm seeing 3:33 right now. And 11:11. Crazy. So, yeah.
Yeah. And not only is everything out there, but it's in here, right?
Yeah.
And it's a reflection. And so to me, it was so cool. I was in the shower this morning. I was like, oh my God, I have all this juicy stuff coming up. And I'm so excited. And it's it feels like such a reward, such a reward for all this work I've been doing. And what I got instead was no, honey, it's not a reward. It's a reflection. Mm-hmm. It's a reflection of how you're showing up. It's a reflection of the transformations that you've done. It's a reflection of what you've been willing to let go of. It's a reflection of what stories and beliefs and truths you've been willing to honor. Yeah. It's a reflection of you showing up and taking the leaps and being open, having a brave heart, a brave mind, a brave soul, a brave voice. These are reflections.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that. Instead of it being this, okay, if you work really, really hard, you're going to have this result. You might not get that result.
Yeah.
But the transformations that I've had, the growth I've had, the expansions I've had, the commitment that I made to myself to get to where I am and where I'm going to continue going, that is a reflection. Yeah. So when you are in your life and you're looking around and really understand everything around you is a reflection of you. Mm-hmm. And if you can own that, it is not on anybody else. It is you. It is your reflection. And if you can own that and then say, okay, what do I want my story to be now?
Yeah.
What do I want to choose to believe now? Journal, you guys. Journal, yeah. journal. Did I say journal? Journal. Write, type, whatever it is. Record these things, these thoughts, these changes, because it's so fun to go back, and especially as you get deeper awarenesses and deeper insights and deeper wisdom, you can go back and read it. Mm-hmm. Oh, and it makes more sense to me now than it did 3 months ago. 5 years from now, this is going to make more sense now than it does in the moment. So I feel complete. How do you feel?
Yes, I am complete too.
I love you.
Yay, I love you too.
Oh gosh. Thank you guys so much for joining us and for taking the time, We are so committed. I hope you feel that, feel it. We are so committed to helping everyone on the planet to have the most epic, amazing life for themselves. And so much of it is remembering who you are.
Yeah.
And I can absolutely tell you that I know who I am, and I did the work, and I'm here to show you the path, and Jen is too. So thank you so much. We love you all from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, we'll talk to you later.
Thanks, you guys. Okay.